Hello, my name is Austin Lawrence. Again, I'm your mountain biking mortgage loan originator. My NMLS number is 225079. Probably doesn't make sense to you now, but as I get into this description and mention that again, you'll understand why that's important. I am co-hosting this with Debbie Fries. She is with Berkshire Hathaway. She is a real estate specialist, a rock star realtor. She is in Sonoma, Solano County. So if you're looking for a realtor in either one of those counties, you found your person. All right, so we're going to start off by allowing Debbie to kind of introduce us to the stock characters, and then I have a kind of a more formal PowerPoint. So that way, because this is a lot of new information for some people, kind of keeps me guided as well as gives you a resource to go back to if you want to kind of revisit this or go back to understanding stuff while you're in the process. Okay, so with that, Debbie, take it away.
Thank you, Austin. I am Debbie Fries, your Rockstar Realtor, DRE number 020600256. And yes, I'm a realtor. I'm also an agent. Those kind of people use those terms interchangeably, which is fine. But then you also have a broker. So what's a broker? What's a mortgage lender? What's your escrow officer? What's your title company? Oh my gosh. I am still, trying to make sure I know which person to contact with which question sometimes. We have a broker in our office. He is also our manager. He doesn't employ us, but he works with us to kind of keep us like rah-rah sometimes. He makes sure that we have all the education that we need. And I'm sure you've, in your life, you've had an insurance broker. So do insurance brokers come into play? Well, sometimes, because if you're a buyer, you want to make sure you're going to know, have homeowners insurance in place before the end of the close of escrow. So, sometimes when I hear people talking and people come to me with questions, which is, I totally encourage that because I really like helping people understand things. And also my secret is that when I don't know something, I get to learn something new because somebody brought me a question. So I had an experience with some friends of ours who called me up one day and they said, we're working with an agent from Oregon. He's my uncle. He's also licensed in California, which is key because you can only do business in the state that you're licensed in. But he's also our mortgage broker. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird, but okay. So I learned something new that day. But you know what? Austin is really good about getting into the weeds on this stuff. So I'm going to let him take it away from here. So take it away, Austin.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, I think, and one of the things that you introduced that I'm not sure is a big part of my PowerPoint, which I think I want to address really quick, is we talk about brokers, we talk about agents, we talk about staff. What we're saying is, and especially Debbie's a great example of this, Berkshire Hathaway is a huge company. And the office that she's in, what she's telling you is, I have a broker who's been doing this for eons, and they have this enormous amount of experience. And what she has actually put into place, which I love working with Debbie about, is it's a team. So you have this huge team that all fulfill different responsibilities in this process, and they're all experts. So you have your broker, you have your agents, and then you have fellow agents. And what happens in her office is they all work together. She'll do quite often open houses for other agents. And when you guys are getting, oh, what do we do pricing wise? What do we do staging wise? Debbie's really great at pulling those resources in and getting some expert advice outside of the box advice. So I think that team aspect, which I don't address a lot in my cast of characters, is super important. It really makes you as an agent, as a loan officer, a lot more, well, what's the word? Credible. it makes you have the resources to be able to really help your clients. All right, so let me get into what are those stock characters and what do they do. Give me
Let me
one quick
just mention
second.
one other thing.
Yeah, please.
Sometimes, even during a transaction, it'll be even confusing to the buyer or the seller because you got two real estate agents that you're working with. You got the buyer's agent, you got the seller's agent. So that's another source of confusion. Just thought of that. Just wanted to throw it in there.
No, I think you're so dead on here, Debbie, and I think that's part of the process. We're not disconnected from, yeah, there's a lot of new information. I think that's the whole point of why we share these webinars, is we're always trying to inform and educate. As we are informing and educating ourselves, because we have to go through yearly, you know, what we call CE hours, but basically go back into training ourselves and becoming up to date with all the new laws and stuff. It becomes really important to understand that there's a lot that goes into real estate transactions. So understanding it, breaking it down, informing and educating not only ourselves, but our clients is probably what our strength is working together. So let's get into the who. Who are the stock characters in real estate? Should have probably put a little owl up there. So who is who and what do they do? All right. And again, my name is Austin Lawrence. I'm your mortgage loan originator. Again, I specialize in the Bay Area as well. So this is kind of one of my cup of teas. So as I get into this, I'll be more than happy to share this with you. So you have that resource available as well. So who are the stock characters? There are many individuals involved in any type of real estate transaction. The goal, see that down on the left, is to sell that home and make you happy. You know, really get you into a position where you feel like, you know what, I benefited from this transaction. There's always compromises in the process, but in reality, what do we want to do? We want to help you get into a new home, or we want to help you sell your home. Those are definitely our goals, and we want you to be happy in the process. So let me go through some of the stock characters to help you to kind of understand who we deal with and who you're going to be dealing with in that process. So here's a not too extensive list, but there are much more. But I want to just talk about these because these are the main teams that we deal with when we're dealing with this. So Debbie addressed this too, and this is kind of funny because we, even in the real estate industry, are always laughing at this. We have real estate agents. You have two sides of the fence. You have buyer's agents and you have listing or selling agents. We usually refer to the listing agents as realtors and the buying agents as agents. So it is kind of funny. We do see a cross use of language and some that are more specific than others, but basically you have two types of agents that you deal with. So if you're selling, you want a selling agent to represent you. If you're buying, you want a buying agent. If you're selling and buying again, you're probably going to want two agents or somebody who does both of those. We also have transaction coordinators.
I do both.
What's that?
I do both.
Yes, Debbie definitely does both. We also have transaction coordinators, which aren't too much of a main part of the buying process, but I always bring them up because these are like what I would term as, and no offense, administrative assistants in this process. They are the glue that make this process work. So if you are ever contacted by a transaction coordinator, and they usually do represent the agent, they absolutely deserve your respect and attention. They are absolutely there to help. They are not there with an agenda. Okay, so transaction coordinators, just important to mention them. We call them TCs. So we'll say, hey, my TC is blah, 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 blah. So those busy agents like Debbie will delegate that responsibility to their TCs because they can deal with the kind of the day-to-day activities, and Debbie can focus on the bigger issues. We also have loan officers. I am one of those. We call those MLOs, or mortgage loan originators. That will be in place if you are having financing, but sometimes they're not even used in the process. Here's an important figure you want to understand and know: title officers. They are a hugely important part of this process. Title officers usually also have these sidekicks that come in later in the process. They're usually in the same office or close. And they're escrow officers. And then we also have appraisers. That's pretty self-explanatory. They do the valuations of the real estate property. Insurance agents, Debbie mentioned this, but as I've found with financing and with homes nowadays, insurance agents are pretty much always involved in this process. So I would always recommend to my clients, as I'm getting you approved for a loan, get on the phone with an insurance agent and tell them what you're doing. Ask them to give you an idea of what those costs will be. Because let me just sidetrack into this. In the area I live in, which is on the Russian River, the insurance is ridiculous. I mean, ridiculously expensive. And we're talking $5,000 to $10,000 a year versus in a normal home, maybe $1,000 a year. It depends on where you're located. So this is an important thing to get in the process right away, because that can really, really, really affect your ability to qualify for a loan or to feel comfortable buying a home in that particular area. So insurance is important. And then we have a host of inspectors, pest inspectors, home inspectors, warranty, blah, 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 blah. We have a bunch of inspectors that come into the process. So let me get into some of the details of those people as we go through this. So buyer's agent, listing agent. There are two specific agents that are involved in most real estate transactions. These are licensed individuals who represent the clients in the particular transaction. They are both licensed and bonded. You want a licensed and bonded real estate agent. Do not work with people that are not with a licensed and bonded company. We call these realtors. So the listing or selling agent, this agent represents the seller in a real estate transaction. It's pretty self-explanatory in that sense. And then you usually have the buyer's agent, and this agent represents the person purchasing the home or property. And remember, as Debbie said, she does both of these. So that's why she's the rock star. So I did address transaction coordinators. These are usually in the realtor's office. And this is not usually a main player in the process, but they are very important. And if involved, they should be treated with the same respect as the agents involved. They speak for the agent. Usually a real estate company hires a transaction coordinator, which is process and quality control, administrative stuff, and to help the selling agent complete the process and communicate effectively with all parties. So they definitely are the glue that holds those transactions together. Then you have people like me. These are very important if you have financing involved in your transaction. This is a licensed and bonded individual who represents the bank or lending institution who's providing the financing or funds to complete this process. Now, we are now referred to normally as mortgage loan originators, and this is after the Gramm-Leachy-Bliley Act of 2009. Ooh, it's Biley. These individuals are licensed and bonded with their state. And so all loan officers are also registered with a federal system called the NMLS, which is the National Mortgage Lending System, and the DRE in their state. So they help with financing and basically provide the funding. Then we have this other important officer that comes in, and these are the ones that you're going to find you're going to start dealing with more and more as the process gets closer to signing. The title officers are in charge of the legal documents that show and document the ownership rights and responsibilities for real estate property. They provide a review and help to clean the title for transfer to new owners. And cleaning the title is something I can get into detail later, but that's basically their job, is to look at the documents that are filed in the county and make sure there are no what we would call encumbrances or liens on title, so that you have a clean title as you transfer to becoming the new owner of that property. Title agents help with the legal logistics of property ownership. They're in charge of the documents that will be filed in the county where the transaction is being completed. Okay, so they also have a person that comes into play towards the end, which we will absolutely start interacting with when money becomes involved, and they are the escrow officers. Escrow officers are usually associated with the money, and they're a third-party arbitrator. they don't have any stake in the game. They're usually just to kind of keep the process moving forward and upfront. So they're in charge of, let's just kind of talk about it, the earnest money deposit. That's usually an initial deposit you make. And most importantly, the distribution of any funds. So they have a lot of responsibilities, but really we usually consider them the money person. And you can see I kind of listed what they do. They verify the accuracy of land ownership documents, conferring with buyers, sellers, and lending institutions, examining property title for delinquent taxes, mortgages, trustee documents. So they do the kind of the third person review of everything to make sure there are no issues. Another important element in the process, or a person in the process, are appraisers. Now, appraisers are the people that you will be interacting with individually. Whether you're selling or buying, you usually are going to be interacting with an appraiser. So they're licensed and bonded individuals who establish the value of the real property. They inspect the real estate property and use one of several methods to determine the current value of the property. And those methods I can go into detail of, but they have different ways they review and value property, as well as they can do rental, market rental analysis and stuff like that in the area to let you know what you could rent that property for as well. Keep in mind, they're independent in this process. In fact, as a loan officer, this is important to note, I am not allowed to interact with any appraiser, so I cannot unduly influence the process or the value of the property. They are independent, so they are usually paid by the buyer, but they represent the lender. Lenders and banks will not lend money above appraised value. So this appraiser establishes that value that the lender will then allow you to borrow against. So if it's above that, you're going to have to come in with cash as an example. If it's below that, the lender's going to say, look, we're not lending above the appraised value. So appraisers are very important and they need to be taken very seriously. All right. We did address this a little bit, and I want to kind of get into the weeds on this because I think insurance agents are often ignored, and most properties are required to have a loss payee or a loss policy for damages to the property, such as fire, flood, earthquake, or any number of suspected future issues. So they don't have specific insurance agents for real estate, but depending on state and licensing, most insurance companies can help with both home and car insurance. I mention that because a lot of the times I get that question. I don't know home insurance agents. And I say, call your car insurance agent and ask them if they do homes too. And you'll see, as you probably have seen on commercials, most of them do. There are some specialized ones. And again, if that's an issue, reach out to Debbie or myself. I have some specific agents that specialize in home insurance. So if that is the case, I can direct you to them. But State Farm, you know, any of those big companies, they usually do both. All right. And they protect your property from financial damage that can be enormous or unexpected. So just keep that in mind. They're really that comfort, that warm blanket in the back of your mind in case something happens. Insurance and warranty are not the same entity. So please don't confuse insurance with warranty. Those are not the same thing. All right, so we have also inspectors, and I just want to address these really quick because these inspectors do something very specific, and you'll see I actually called the appraiser an inspector too. Usually you have a home inspector, they're licensed and bonded, and they will evaluate the condition of the property. I strongly, and so does Debbie, this is one of our big things, we always recommend you get a home inspection immediately upon making an offer on a property, because you need to know from a professional what the condition of the property is. She had mentioned in our last thing, foundation, mold. These things are absolutely expert oriented. They're not stuff that you're going to know as just a normal person. And Debbie and I would both admit readily, these are not things that we're going to notice or pay attention to in our initial kind of, touring of the property or inspections. You also have what's part of the contract, pest and termite inspections. And when I say part of the contract, the RPA, or the residential purchase agreement, requires that you address these inspectors. Either you actually say, yes, we're going to use them, and here's the inspectors, or you actually I'm brain farting on the term here, but you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and Debbie, what's the word?
Wait.
Waive. Waive the inspections. In the seller's market, we were waiving these inspections quite often, which got us into some, not trouble, but precarious situations, let's say. So it's nice to see the market shifting back to buyers, because buyers tend to invest in these inspections, and they're a great part of the process. They really are that warm, fuzzy blanket that we need, like insurance, or what's the condition of the property. And then finally you have the appraisers, which they do the home inspection with regards to value, not condition. And they are usually represented by the lenders, the banks, and they focus on purchase price. All right, so let me give you an example in Sonoma County. Average sale price right now is probably around 725, 750,000. This was the rates before, but what I wanted to show you is that we have actual things that go into making these decisions, which are statistics. And so as we see the market move, we also rely on these experts in the process to help us to understand and get this information. So all the stuff you're seeing here, whether it's accurate or not for today, is stuff that we've got from experts in the industry, and stuff that we encourage our clients to research and become familiar with in the areas. Because as we're getting into this process, you want the biggest return on your investment for buyers, and for sellers, you want to maximize your sale price. Let's be honest. So I wanted to bring up some examples of some homes. So here's like a home in Sebastopol. What you can see is this is a large property. There's not a lot of curb appeal in this particular picture. But what you're going to see is there's a lot that goes into this understanding of properties and how they move. And that's where these stock characters come into play. They actually specialize in particular areas of the real estate transaction. They'll determine, like the appraiser will determine that price, and the home inspector will look at the bedrooms and the baths, and they'll tell you, hey, this is a 3-bedroom house technically, but this 3rd bedroom doesn't have a closet, so I can't count it as a bedroom. So we will then delegate to these stock characters to help us to bring this process together and to really find a synergy in this process for our clients. Here's some other examples of some properties. But the long and short of it is there's a lot of different elements to real estate transactions. There are a lot of different, what we call stock characters. And what you need to know about that is probably who they are, what the responsibilities are, but know there are a ton of people behind the scenes that are working for your benefit. And it does benefit you to be informed and educated about this process. The more informed you are, the more educated you are about the process, I think the better are you going to feel about it, as well as I think in the end, you'll probably get the better deal, or you'll find that, you know, when you're buying a house, knowing all this stuff will really get you into the home feeling like, you know what, this was an easy process. It was fast. And I got a home that I feel like it's going to be my forever home. So, and again, if you're selling, then you want the most money that you can get for your home, obviously. So, again, my name is Austin Lawrence, mortgage advisor. As I said, I'm an MLO, mortgage loan originator, and my NMLS number is 225-079. I would welcome reaching out to me, asking any questions about the process. And I would even love to share this with you so that you have that resource available for yourself, because as you get into the weeds, it gets a little confusing. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it back over to Debbie. And Debbie, if you could wrap it up for us.
I would love to. I just want to say thank you for all your facts and figures. This is why I rely on people like Austin to keep the data at the forefront of the transaction. I'm a hand holder. I'm always available. You can call me or text me anytime. But what we like to do with the data is take the emotion out. I'll capture your emotion because I know you got it. I know you're excited about buying a new house. I know you're excited about selling your home, but we're going to use data to make the decisions. I'm kind of like the buffer. We'll be excited and we'll use emotion, but we'll use the data to make sure we price it correctly, to make sure your offer is correct, and to make sure we have all the facts and figures that we need, because it really is a mathematical transaction. I know you don't like to think of it that way because this is my new forever home, whatever. We understand that, and I get just as excited as you do, but then I have to pull myself back and say, okay, but what do the facts tell us? What does the data tell us? I just wanted to add in that the buyer and seller agent can be the same person. When you start a real estate transaction, you're going to be blown away at all the papers that you're going to be sent to sign. But one of them is a disclosure of dual agency, if that would happen. And that is totally legal and possible. I personally don't like to do it because the buyer agent and the seller agent are negotiating to get the best possible deal for each of you. So it would be difficult for me to step away from that. I don't know how people do it, but it is legal to do. I like to rely on transaction coordinators because the way I think of it is that they keep me out of trouble. I had recently had a transaction, and I represented the buyer, and she wanted me to send her all of the documents that she had signed. And when I first started going into the file, the first one I downloaded had something like 48 pages. And so I sent her the link, and she's like, well, I'd really like to have paper copies of all this. And I said, well, I think that's going to be like, I don't know, 400 or 500 pages of stuff. So just don't be overwhelmed. Our transaction coordinator keeps us all on track and all legal and all out of court in the future. So that's why I love my transaction coordinators. Also with the escrow, what we like to do is open an escrow right away so we know who we're dealing with. And we also, and I've had this conversation with clients, when you get a request online to have you wire some money somewhere, pick up the phone and call that person because you want to verify that you're sending your money to the right place. I can't stress that too much. I won't go into the details of why. Just know that somebody sent their money to the wrong place and there was nothing anybody could do about it. So verify, 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 verify with your escrow officer if you're sending money to that person. Oh, and we also want to include roof inspections in the inspections section. But other than that, again, Austin, you did a great job of presenting everything. He's an expert. And I always learn something doing these things. I'm Debbie Fries, your Rockstar Realtor, DRE number 020600256. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue like Austin does, but then again, he's an actor. So what can I say? You know, he's got stage experience. But anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now. And thank you once again for a very informative session. And we hope you enjoy it too. We'll be back next month with another Webucation. Not sure what it's going to be about yet, but it'll be something interesting. So see you then.
All right. Thanks, Debbie. Yep, that's it for us. So I'm going to wrap it up. And please, if you have any questions, put it down in the comments. Reach out to Debbie or myself. You have two experts. We're putting ourselves out there for you. So if you need some help, you need some questions answered, or if you're just thinking about the process, I mean, God forbid, give us a call. The worst that could happen is we give you a plan in the future. Otherwise, thank you, Debbie. Always great to do these with you. Again, as you said, I think we're always informing each other about this kind of stuff and getting that perspective from the other person and learning something new. And that's kind of what we hope our clients get as well, is informed and educated about this process, because it's a lot. And you want to feel like, yeah, you know what, you were taken care of. You had the right people in place. Your team of experts got the job done. And in the end, you're in a beautiful home, or you got that sale price that you wanted, and you're off to the races with your next adventure. Again, Debbie Fries, Berkshire Hathaway, Austin Lawrence, Pacific Wholesale Mortgage. And we really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If it was helpful, please let us know. Please subscribe. You'll start getting notifications of our monthly webinars or webications that we share with you. Thanks, Debbie, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you.